Hello, everyone. Welcome to another fabulous Hump Day Wednesday on Paranormal Brew. I'm your host, Taryn Kerper. And I have two guys with me tonight, all the way from Tampa, Florida. They were running a Phantom History House that they're pausing on hold for now. They have new adventures happening, Phantom History. They have podcasts. They travel. They do paranormal investigating stuff, and they are. I love all their stuff on Instagram. If you don't follow them, please go follow them. It's Phantom History House. I don't know if they're changing that, but I know that it was Phantom History House on Instagram. But I really want to dive into it, so I'm going to shut up and stop talking so I can bring these guys on. Here we are, Tim and Steve. Tim goes by the Beast, which I love.
Anybody can call me Beast.
And Steve, you guys are from Tampa, correct?
That's correct, yes.
And we were just talking about how cold it is in Tampa, as opposed to it's very, 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 very cold here in New Jersey. So I would take the 50 degrees right now for sure. I am layered up. I have long johns on. I have a shirt under my shirt. I got 3 pairs of socks on.
We would be the same way. You know, in Florida, when it drops below like 70, we start panicking. So this is very cold for us. We're managing.
So can you guys just, I just want to, we're going to just start at the beginning of things, just how you guys, Steve, when I read up on you guys a little bit, you're the one that's like really into the paranormal. Yeah. So can you we'll start with you, just, how you got into the paranormal. And then I love how much Tim supports and is a part of this and is jumps on board, because you don't see a lot of that with couples. Like if you have the one person that's into the paranormal, the other one kind of just sits back. And so I love that you guys got together to, you kind of joined forces into all this. So I'm going to shut up. Go ahead.
Well, I used to be and I am a ghost tour guide. I have worked here in Tampa and downtown, as well in Ybor City, which is our historic district. And whenever I travel, I always want to do a ghost tour, because I think it's one of the coolest ways to learn about the history of a location, which I love, and get the spooky vibe as well. So I decided back in like 2018 that I wanted to be a tour guide, a ghost tour guide. So got hired by a couple of different companies. And then as I was doing that and learning some of these stories, I thought it would be fun to try to reach a broader audience. So I started my podcast, which is called Phantom History. And it is still more of a narrative, like creepy newsreel type podcast. So more of a storytelling thing with a journalistic twist to it, I guess you could say. And as I was developing that, I was kind of learning, like we all do as we start these little adventures, what works and what doesn't. And Tim and I had been friends for years before that.
Okay.
So he helped me with some of like the technical side of stuff. He gave some great advice, told me what equipment to get, because he has done podcasting and interviews throughout his career. not in the paranormal world, but in the marching arts world. Um,
Awesome.
so he kind of helped educate me on what I needed to do to improve my product. And then when we did become a couple and started seeing each other in 2020, I told him that I'd always wanted to have a themed bed and breakfast to the paranormal world. And he didn't go running away into the woods and thought that's kind of a cool idea, as long as it's not like a Halloween Horror Nights house. It's more of an elevated, elegant experience, which you can talk
Yeah, we
about.
wanted to have a high-end experience.
Yeah.
So our bed and breakfast that we've been doing the last 2 years is sort of a high-end B&B experience. You stay here in our home, you have your own room with your own private bath, and then we serve you breakfast in the morning. It's all about sort of making you comfortable and sharing experiences. But the nice thing about our paranormal theme has been that Steve could talk about his love of ghost stories and ghosts and paranormal experiences. And a lot of our guests, well, gosh, almost every guest ended up saying, well, I had this experience, and start to talk about their own.
Yeah, we created a safe space, which we were most proud of.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that is really why, like I started my podcast because, it's like, we were saying we just sit around, and when you just sit around, you talk about you come up, you have like the greatest conversations when you start talking about all this stuff, you know what I mean? And it's great to have that place for people. Para elegance, Amy says. Yeah.
That's perfect.
Beautiful. I like that. I wish we had that phrase. But I have to tell you, I think it's wonderful that you do create a safe space for people to talk about this, because one of the things we realize is, a lot of people don't feel like they can share their paranormal experience or the ghost that they had in their house when they were a little kid. Like, our society, unfortunately, is just going to mock them and make them feel bad or whatever. And so anytime you can create a place where people can share those experiences, I think that's wonderful. And you're doing that here. So congrats to you.
Well, you guys are too. You guys are, I'm telling you, when I saw you guys on Instagram, I was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. It's so different. We don't have anything like that in New Jersey. We don't. I don't know of any other places that do it, but just amazing.
Well, thank you. And, we really like the idea of, and not to knock any of these amazing historic locations where people investigate, but, we do a live show as well on most Wednesdays. And I think one of our guests described it as crunchy. It's older, it's a little bit run down, but it adds to the vibe. Here we're higher end and we kind of celebrate the paranormal, but our Wi-Fi is fantastic, and you're going to have great baked goods by the Beast here. And I'm happy to tell you a ghost story while we make s'mores, so it's a different kind of experience. But it all boils down to getting those stories of what people have experienced. And I like to think of myself as like a ghost story collector. So if I hear a great ghost story from a guest, I'll ask them if I can share that story with some of our future guests. And I have a few of those that I do.
That's awesome. Now, when you guys have tell the ghost stories and stuff, is it Tampa based, or is it just anywhere?
It's really kind of anywhere. Most of them are here in Tampa. And a lot of them stem from the podcasts that I've done, or because I always like to say, ghost stories are great, but I want to know the background behind them, and I want to know who's doing the haunting. I want that connection. At least that's how I like it, because I really like the history side. So if you're going to haunt me, I'm going to figure out who you are. So that's how I kind of present a lot of the stories. And I would say 99% of the stories I tell are stories that I have heard directly from people who have experienced them. And then a couple that I've heard maybe as a kid or from other podcasts, that kind of thing. But I always enjoy exploring that. And again, most of them are here in Tampa, but I'm originally from St. Louis, so I have some ghost stories from up there too, from dating way back.
So okay, so have either of you had a paranormal experience yourself?
Well, I know that Steve has, for sure, and he'll be happy to tell you about some of those. I'll say that I'm new to the world of sort of the paranormal and the spooky. And I sort of got dragged into it by my husband here as we were doing all this. But I do think it's really interesting. I'll say for myself, I like the history part of it very much. And I like when we go to a historic city and a ghost tour is a great way to learn the history of a city. And I'm warming up to the idea of being sort of creeped out or something might jump out, in a fun way sometimes, and also in these places we've been visiting. So it's been a lot of fun. But you definitely.
I have had a couple of experiences in a home I lived in previously. which at the time was like a 95-year-old house. So if it's over 100 years old now. And that's one thing about Florida is we don't have a lot of really, really old structures. A lot of stuff gets bulldozed, which is sad. But this was during the pandemic, and was walking. I had been sent home from work, to work from home, and was walking through my kitchen at lunchtime, and I saw a full-bodied apparition standing just inside my family room, with her back against the wall and like her head leaned back and her eyes open really wide. And it was noon. It's the middle of the day, so I am surprised. I live by myself. I back up and look around the corner, and of course she's gone. But I know what I saw. Later on, I had 2 tumblers out on my counter to pour myself a drink, and I had a friend come over, and I offered him a drink. And as I was offering to make him a drink, one of those tumblers shot off of the counter and shattered on the floor.
Oh, wow.
So of course he's wondering what happened. And I made up a story like, oh, I must have had it too close to the edge, but I knew where it was. That's not what had happened. But I didn't want to say, oh, it's my resident ghost. So it made me want to do some investigations in the house on my own to try to get the history. And unfortunately, because of the type of home that it was, there was a lot of renters that had been there, and a lot of immigrants that had lived there that worked in our historic district. So getting those records of who she was very challenging.
Yeah.
But I know she was there. And as I was doing my podcast, I mentioned this to one of my guests who happened to be a psychic after our conversation, and we stopped recording. And I said, this is starting to happen to me. I'm starting to see some things around here. Can you explain this? And she said, there's 2 things going on. One is the world has slowed down and people are home more and there's less distraction. So we're going to start seeing some things. And number 2, you're talking about the paranormal, and that other realm hears that. And it's kind of like you're sending up a flare gun saying, hey, I'm here. Come talk to me. And she tells me it's up to you on how far you want to open that door. And crack, or do you want to bust it wide open? I'm just like, hey, let's go. I want to see what's out there.
Yeah. Which I'm surprised, Tim, that Steve isn't like a kind of like a conduit there for you. You know what I mean? Like, I remember I started dating somebody and he had nothing to do with the paranormal at all. And he went from not seeing anything to one day seeing my dad sitting on the edge of our bed, rubbing my shoulders. And he was like, like he had no idea. He freaked out because you go from seeing nothing to seeing that, and, sometimes people can be that conduit, you know what I mean, for you. But hearing some of Steve's experiences and stuff, and now, do you look back and go, you know what, there was this one time that was really weird?
Oh, there definitely were, especially the one. Am I supposed to tell the story now?
Yeah, you can tell that story.
Okay, well, but we were in bed, laying in bed in the bedroom, and one evening at his house on this same haunted place. First off, smartly, he did not tell me that he was seeing all these ghosts at his house, because I guess he knew that I'm not showing up, right?
Yeah, when I'm going to come back.
So, but I do remember very clearly one night we were laying in bed, and there was like the doorway, and there was a big closet right next to it, and there was this big heavy rattle coming from the top of the clock, and I was like, "What was that?" And then you said,
"Not tonight. I have company."
Oh wow!
And it went quiet.
But what's really interesting about this story is that, like, I think I just sort of thought, oh, maybe, it's like old pipes rattling. But the interesting thing is I just didn't worry about it. Like, I was just like, okay. He said nothing. For some reason, I just didn't worry about it from that. And so, but I never did see things other than that one really obvious rattle with somebody I think was saying hello, looking back on it now. But I'm not worried about, I'm not expecting to, and would not be real thrilled to start seeing things all over everywhere, because I think maybe they know I'm okay without, I welcome friendly spirits, and I don't mind if I know that they're around me, but I don't think I want to be seeing them.
Yeah. I just want to say really quick, Jing is watching, and Jing is in Indonesia, fellas. So I just want to give her a shout out, because she takes time out of Indonesia's like 12 hours behind or 12 hours ahead. I don't even know, but she's a faithful follower, and I love her. So I always give her a shout out, because she gets us out into Indonesia.
Thank you, Thank you for watching.
Yes.
So I was, now Tim, to your defense, like before I was into the paranormal and I was afraid of it, things would happen and I was the same way. Like it would happen and then I would just be like, I would forget about it. Like because you don't know what to do, or you don't know, you don't know what it is, and there wasn't a lot of when I got into it, it wasn't, it was like when ghost hunters were first starting out and all that stuff, which was in 2003 or 4. Before that, there wasn't a lot of things you could turn to and look at for answers for anything.
Right. Well, and I think that's part of our culture too. I think our culture tells you, oh, you're just seeing things. That was just, so I think we're sort of taught to just dismiss it and to not worry about it. So I have become more open to the idea that it could be happening, but I'm still not real thrilled about it. See, now there have been a few other things that we've experienced together, and we're kind of like, like, what was that? But nothing that's ever made me feel afraid.
Well, and I can say this too, to Taryn, for the paranormal community is so incredibly welcoming, and regardless of your level of experience, everybody we've encountered has always been kind of like you, saying, well, what is your experience? Do you want to talk about it? And they don't immediately say, oh, well, of course they're out there. What's wrong with you? You should be all about it. Everybody's been very respectful that we've come across, to kind of like, oh, you're comfortable with that level? Then good for you. And they leave it at that, which I think says a lot about the people that are into this world.
Yeah, for sure. When you have the people that are really passionate about it, I think a lot of the people that are passionate about it are like you, Steve, where the history means a lot as well. Preserving the history of the locations, or preserving or keeping the memory and the history alive of the people that were there or crossed over, who passed away. I'm a huge history buff. And when I say history buff, mean historical locations. You guys in Florida, I don't know how far St. Augustine Lighthouse is, but that's a big paranormal hotspot for people. I mean, that really draws attention, the St. Augustine Lighthouse.
Yeah, that's on the other coast from us, and I've been there a few times, and it's beautiful, it's historic, and it's insanely haunted. So I'm like, every time I go, I have to stop by. It's great.
And you brought up Ybor City. So I was in Ybor City once for Gasparilla. And yes, that was interesting, to say the least. I think if we had gotten there a little earlier and, took the advice of my friend that so I knew somebody that used to work down there at the bars. He was a bouncer. And he said, listen, if you're going to go to Gasparilla, you need to get into a bar. You need to have like a safe place. And I'm like, okay, whatever. Yeah, I should have listened. It was insane. But it reminded me of like a Wild Wild West type of a New Orleans, like where the actual parade and stuff was there. But Ybor City, what, because next time I come to Tampa, I'm going to look you guys up.
Please do. And Ybor City is beautiful. It's vintage. It's old. It's creepy, and it's a blast. I mean, it's all those things. And Ybor, I used to be a ghost tour guide in Ybor City. So again, I wanted to study a lot of that history and learn these stories. And Ybor City is named after Vicente Martinez Ybor, who actually founded that part of Tampa in the 1880s. So he brought in all these Cuban migrants who worked in the cigar factories. It turned into this booming mini city, really, until Tampa has eventually absorbed it. And the city of Tampa and Hillsborough County, where we are, have done an incredible job of preserving that history, which I really respect. And yes, while inside a lot of these places are bars and nightclubs, the outside looks just like it did, before the great fires of the early 1900s. So it's a way to kind of honor our past as well as celebrate where we are now. And it's a big imprint, a big footprint, I should say, on just outside of downtown Tampa, where everybody likes to stroll through. And if you're not a party goer and you don't want to do the nighttime thing, you go there during the day, and there's amazing restaurants, and you can still get that kind of really vintage culture. It's just an amazing spot of our city.
Yeah. So crap, I had a question in my head, but I was like totally like following what you were saying, and now I forget.
I talk a lot, so you can always tell me to shut up.
No, I love it. I love it. It's just I forgot what I was going to ask you. Um, so I was going to ask you that, you said that you started in 2018 doing ghost tours, but prior to that, were you into you were into the paranormal?
I don't know if into was the right word. I was interested. I was intrigued.
Like,
I've always been like that Halloween kid, like so many of us who end up in this world. But it was always kind of like on the periphery. I had my professional day job. I was a newspaper reporter for a very long time. I now work in public relations as my day job. But it was just a fun thing. I would go somewhere and be like, oh, that's neat. I want to figure out the history. And I guess when I first realized that I was into this was in the early 2000s when I went to New Orleans and took a ghost tour there. And that's, I think, when those first claws started getting into me, like, ooh, there's a lot more here to explore around every corner, no matter where you are.
and so Tim, you're saying, like, you're ready to delve into the paranormal a little bit, right? You don't want to see anything, but you kind of want
Well, I think what's happened is while the last 2 years we've been doing this bed and breakfast project, and we've had wonderful guests come through, but we've also gotten connected to a lot of very wonderful people in the paranormal community, from a lot of investigators who have done investigations here or who we've met, but also a lot of psychic mediums who have come to our bed and breakfast to do readings, tarot card readings. We've had seances here with psychic mediums. So I've been introduced to sort of like this other world I didn't really know. We've been to spiritualists, Spirit Fest, and so I've gotten connected to people that are working in this area, and it's just new to me. So the thing that I've been most struck by is just everybody's just wonderful. Like the intent behind all of this work is so positive and so wanting to help. All the psychic mediums in all the different ways that they try to help people. They're trying to help people, and I love that. I'm a helper, so I really respond to the idea of, one, looking for the history and finding out about the unknown, but also there's this whole set of people using all these different talents to try to help people. We've met people that do sound work, sound bath work,
Sound
and
healing.
Reiki healing, and just all this stuff that I didn't even know about. So that's what I love, is like the community around all of it seems very positive and helpful and healthy. I just wish more people knew that.
Yeah. So with the house now, I know I know that we're going to be. I saw a post that you guys were selling everything also in the house. So are you guys selling the house and moving
Right.
out of it?
Right. We, after 2 years of the bed and breakfast business, we have decided to close our doors. Our last day of business will be March 2nd. So if anybody
That's
wants
my birthday.
Yeah, awesome. We're going to be celebrating that day, so we'll include you in our celebration.
Yeah, we'll have to do a birthday shot together. My birthday
I
shot.
love that. So anybody that wants to come see the bed and breakfast and how it's decorated and what we've done here and spend some time with us, they can still do that between now and March 2nd. You can go to phantomhistory.com, where you can also find the podcast and all the other things we do, but there's also information about the house. So we would welcome anybody to come visit us while we're still here finishing this up. We are going to be selling a lot of the things we've collected here. A lot of them are going to our guests and friends, which we love, that they're taking a piece of what we've done back home with them to keep for good. And then we're gonna be doing some new things with the Phantom History brand.
So now you said that there's been a lot of like seances and investigations there at the house and everything. Did you guys ever notice like anywhere where there was, you did renovations in the house, I'm assuming? Like
Yes.
when you first got it, right? So because renovations are one of the things that, is theorized to uptick paranormal activity if there is some. But did you notice a difference or a shift in any of the changes that were going on and from the paranormal investigations and the seances? Like, did you notice stuff more, or anything was like being, drummed up from all that stuff going on?
So yes, but let me preempt that with this. We have a good friend of ours who is an eclectic witch, and before we opened or right at the beginning when we opened our doors, we had her bless the entire property as well as everything inside.
We put a lot of protections around our property and the home.
Yes, So we are true believers that what you put out is what you get back. So we try to stay
Absolutely.
very positive and very fun and very, very open. But to that point, when we were renovating upstairs, that's the first time that we caught something, that thing out of the corner of your eye that it's
And
hard to explain.
that was an occasion when we both saw the same thing, and so that was an interesting night because it was my sort of first time.
Yeah, we renovated the entire second story of the house, and blinds were off and windows were open, and there was one light up there lighting up everything, because walls were missing. And we had gone outside to look at the house because we had put up some Halloween decor, just very minimal. And as we were walking up to the front of the house, before I reached the front door, I saw a movement in one of the windows upstairs to my right. And, just like when I lived in that creepy house, I didn't say something to Tim right away. But before I opened the door, he asked me if one of the contractors who was here all the time was still upstairs. And I told him I didn't think so because his truck wasn't there. And that's when he replied, "Oh, I thought I saw somebody up in that room." And I told him so did I.
Interesting.
Like there was a light on the floor sort of shining into the room, and it looked like something passed in front of the light.
Oh,
Right.
that's cool.
So we were like, okay, is there something up there? And so, of course, the next thing that happens is we grab our phones with our flashlights and we sort of go creeping up there a la Scooby-Doo, and try to look around and see if there's something there. Because we thought it could be an animal or
Yeah.
And we'd only been here, 4 weeks at that point?
It was pretty early on. Less than that, I think.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool.
But anyway, we never did see anything, of course, but that was the first time that we both thought, okay, something was moving around up there that we don't know what it is.
Wow, that's cool. And then, so that happened, and Tim, you seeing it, you know what I mean? Like, do you feel that validates a little bit more for you, Steve? Like, I know that if, I'm with my fiance and like, he's like, I don't know what that was. I did hear that. Like, I'm like, yes, I know my ears are good. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like you get a little bit more validated when it's somebody with less experienced eyes, ears. You know what I mean? Like, it's somebody just that's not
Absolutely.
into it.
Yeah. It's more of a shared experience, and it's not just me telling him what I think I saw. He saw it too, which is great. And I think another thing that really helped with that is I do a ghost tour of Oldsmar, which is a small town near here in Tampa. And we created this ghost tour. And the way we did that is we had the people who had their paranormal experiences come here to the house, sit in the library, and they all told their story. So when you get a collection of people who have similar yet different experiences, it becomes, I think for me, more legitimate as well. It's because all these people can't be that creative to come up with these amazing stories about what happened to them. And of course, while I'm recording these, and taking notes for the ghost tour script, Tim is hearing a majority of these as well. And I think that impacted you a little.
Well, yeah, it was sort of shocking to me that so many people in this one little neighborhood not far from us all had these experiences to share. But what I was most struck by, Taryn, and you'll understand this sort of because of the work you're doing right here, is like it took a lot of courage and vulnerability for people to say, well, this is what we've been seeing at my house. And again, we felt good because our goal is to create a safe space where people feel comfortable. They know it's okay for them to be who they are, to be comfortable in their own skin, and of course to share any stories. But it was quite impactful to have this whole group of people sitting around sharing their stories, and some of them were really quite dramatic.
Absolutely.
Tim, are you a believer?
Am I a believer?
Yeah.
That's the question.
You're allowed to say no. You don't have to say yes because it's a paranormal.
I definitely think there's something to it. Do I think that there's ghosts everywhere you look, jumping around? Something? No, I don't know. But I feel like there's something to it because there's been enough experiences and evidence in the last couple of years for me to feel like all these people aren't making this up. Like when you sit with a psychic medium and they know something about someone's life or someone in their life, and you can see that person react emotionally. That's what happened at seances that we've had quite often. That's moving for everyone. And it's also makes you feel like there's something to this, right? How would they know? They can't possibly know. I feel like that also always has an impact. But I feel like I'm sort of like a believer, but a skeptic at the same time. It's like I'm not going to discount it, but maybe I'm not all in on all of it, and that's okay.
and that's the healthiest brain to have in this field. You can't think everything is paranormal. You can't, right?
Right.
Has with the psychic mediums and the seances and stuff in the house, has anything ever been personal come through for you guys, like either of you, like family members or anything, like that way?
So, well, I don't know if anything is for you. The closest thing for me, which is cool but also disappointing. So, family members, no, but my dog did come through,
That's awesome.
which surprised me. And I wasn't
That's
even
a family
here
member.
for all of it. So, well, yeah, they are family members. I didn't mean that, but I had, whenever we would do seances here, one of us would be around as kind of like the backup host, making sure people had tissues or they needed a drink or whatever. And I was sitting just off of this room actually, and I had to go outside for something. And when I came back in, they were talking about this dog that nobody could see except for our psychic, who was looking for somebody, and they described the dog, and it was my dog that I had to put down like 3 years ago.
That's so awesome.
So I interrupted. I'm like, wait, what does this dog look like again? And they explained it to me, and I was like, oh, that's Ty. That's my dog. And of course, we had 20 people in this room, and they all went, oh.
I would have started crying. I would have been like, oh my god.
And it was pretty moving. And we've had people who have had their dogs come through. We've had a woman who connected with a horse because we're in an agricultural neighborhood where we are. And of course, a lot of our guests have had those personal family members, and it does get really, really emotional.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. And even that emotion. I mean, you think about all the emotion that's being left, at your place. Like did you guys do things, after these things, like to kind of cleanse the area? You know what I mean? Because a lot of people leave they could leave a lot of impressional emotions and stuff, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one thing that our psychics have always shared with us that we've collaborated with is that, they do something when they start and they do something when they're done to kind of clear the space for what they're going to do and the work they're going to do, which of course we appreciate. We also have like a blessing jar that we have near the middle of the house that was built just for this kind of thing. And to Tim's point, there is some skepticism, I think, in me when it comes to that, but I'm also like, better safe than sorry, so we're going to put that there. So I have a healthy respect for it, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I do want to get to the topic of like aliens and cryptids. I just want your opinions on that. You know what I mean? Because it is all under the same umbrella, if you will. But I want to talk a little bit first about your podcast and the investigation. So you're going to be doing this podcast. You do it together, right?
Not really. Well, it depends. We actually have two podcasts going on. The Phantom History podcast, which is the sort of scripted, formal one, is Steve's thing. I assist him with helping to get it out, edited, get it online, that kind of thing. We have actually created a second podcast called Conjuring Phantom History because Steve was having all these conversations and we wanted a way to put them out there. And then we're having Wednesday night conversations that we do together. And some of those conversations, which have included talking about aliens and cryptids, that has gone on to the Conjuring Phantom History brand. So it's sort of two different ways. One is very formal and scripted, and the other is just sort of like interviews and talking to people and a little bit less formal.
Do you guys travel and do investigations?
You do, well, to a degree.
Well, I go on investigations, but I don't necessarily investigate. So because of my background as a nosy reporter, I like to go along and ask people what they're experiencing and what did you find. Of course, I don't interrupt when they're in the middle of like an EVP session or something, but I like to find out what was your experience and what do you think this is and what are you feeling. So I'm not usually the one that's going around with the EMF meter or, with the SLS camera, but I'm like right over your shoulder looking at it, trying to see what's going on. So I have that interest.
Well, and your journalistic side is then you like to share that with the world. Right. Like, here's something that somebody found and here's the history of the place. And let me put that together and share that with the world. So it's sort of like a way of organizing and sharing and getting the word out about all this stuff. And I think that's a really cool context. So we do travel, and we plan to, now that we have this shift happening in the brand and what we're doing, we do plan to do a lot more traveling, going to these haunted paranormal locations and then doing that journalism in person.
Yeah. Yeah. And the challenge.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say the challenge that is finding the places now. I have a list of where I want to go. I want to talk to the owner/historian of the locations. And then I also want to talk to the paranormal investigative team about that location and then create a package. So that's kind of what we're going to be doing next, moving forward.
That's awesome. And I love that Tim's like all on board. He's like, yeah, we're going to be doing this. This is so cool. You know, because, it makes it so much better when you do it together, right?
Well, and I like seeing Steve happy, and I like going places with Steve, and I think traveling together. And I do think this is interesting, and I think he's doing helpful, important work. I think it's cool to find an organized, professional way to share all of this stuff and share it with people and get people involved and excited. And I just like supporting my man, and I like going places with him, and it's fun.
Yeah, it is fun. It is fun. It is fun. And having an experience on top of it makes it even better. I mean, I'm a part of a group called Paranormal Peaches, right? There's 6 of us, right? There's 6 girls. We have so much fun when we go. One of them was actually in here earlier. You see, she gave me a heart with a peach.
Awesome.
She's Kimberly.
Yeah. But yeah, we go, we have fun with it because that's what, we all have work, full-time jobs, and life is just, and then when you get away and you get to go to these places, and God love the people with the locations that open their doors up and let us come in and do these investigations. I mean, they're so important to the field, they give us a place to research and investigate and do experiments and test things out. And, I love that. I love that.
Well, and Taryn, to your point too, I think it's really important. Everybody should have these other interests in their life. Like, no matter what your career is or what your life is like, I think it's really healthy and great to have lots of other stuff that you delve into, even if it's just dabble here or there. So I think it's great that people do this kind of thing. They love doing the investigations, or they love going to haunted places or just historic places. I encourage everybody to do that. Like, let that little freak paranormal side fly a little bit, and go out there and do it. It's very healthy. I think people are afraid of doing things that they're not good at or they don't know much about. And I'm like, no, get past that and go out there and just get in the middle of it all and have some fun.
Yeah. I love the places that have like meaty history. Let's history upon history upon history, right? Steve, you had mentioned that you have a list of places. What are some of the places you want to go to?
Oh, wow. Well, I want to go to the historic Scott County Jail in Tennessee. That is way up on the top of my list.
There's a podcast about that.
There's a podcast about that. A lot of these places are places I've already
are on the podcast. Yeah,
talked to people. The Sleeper Mortuary in Iola, Kansas, just opened up its doors to investigations, and I cannot wait to talk to Tori, who runs and owns that. I want to go to the Del Coronado Hotel in San Diego. There's a ton of history around that place. I could go. I want to go back to the Limp Mansion in St. Louis. There is. What is the next episode I'm working on? I'm blanking on it. It's a hotel. This huge list of places that I want to see, and of course, all the asylums, all of that. I don't think I would get him to go with me to the asylums.
I may not be touring all these, but trip.
Well, and there's something. We had the opportunity to talk to somebody who is an author in the UK who wrote a story or a book about dark tourism and dark attractions and what that is. And so many people are interested in these non-traditional tourist attractions. And don't get me wrong, Disney World is fantastic. We go all the time. I love Busch Gardens. It's fantastic. But I could also spend 2 days walking around an old cemetery and learning what I can about that community that it's in. And that's just as entertaining as me, although the food won't be as good. So there's so many of those places all the way across the country that I want to go to. I want to go see Robert the Doll in Key West, Florida. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
that's another one. I don't know if you'll go.
I don't know about that one.
I'm
Well,
I'm going with Tim on this one because I'm superstitious. I don't know if I believe in like I don't know if I believe like an item can be possessed or anything like that, but I'm superstitious. So
Mhm.
I would
like
say I'm respectful. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
if it's got that kind of reputation, like I'm
right.
just gonna leave that. You Godspeed. You have your, you know. But I don't need to get in the middle of some things. But to the point of what we're talking about, Taryn, you know, Steve is looking for. We're always looking for either places that would love for us to talk about them and come visit, right? Or people that have had investigations and would like to tell us about those, because we want to go see these places and visit. And then we also want to be doing this journalistic work of sharing their experiences. So if there's anybody out there watching who is either an investigator and would like to share some of the, you know, things that have happened on investigation, they're what we call results. What do you call it? The evidence, right? That we would love to talk to those people. Or if you're someone that is connected with any sort of historic and or paranormal haunted site, and you'd like us to sort of talk about that and help publicize that, please get in touch with us. Phantom History on all the socials, phantomhistory.com. We would love, sorry, my little commercial moment, but like we would love
to promote it. Yeah.
More and more and go to we want to go now to a lot of these places.
Yeah, the next chapter of this Phantom History journey is to take us out into these communities. I mean, we welcomed a lot of communities here while we did this, but the next chapter is going to be us going and experiencing these firsthand and collecting these stories, which has me really excited.
Listen, I will help you guys out as much as possible. Like, believe me, I've been doing this 20 years. So I have a lot of stories. I have a lot of places. One place I will tell you, Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. You need to. I know it's a little far, but Gettysburg is definitely, that's my favorite place on the planet, in the universe. Not just paranormal, but historically wise. It is fantastic. It's just amazing. You have the Penhurst Asylum. Penhurst. I don't know if you guys have heard of Penhurst.
I have, yes.
Penhurst is amazing. Never disappoints. There's so many. Oh yeah. Eric, the Night House. I just had him on. He's like, I would love to get to the Night House. That's for sure.
I would love that. Yeah, I will.
Yeah, reach out to us at Phantom History. Absolutely. That's great.
Well, and what I love about all of this is, again, the community aspect. You know, no matter what your background, where you're from, what state you live in, the paranormal community is so welcoming and so wonderful to work with. And two, I think that we all have such a common respect for the history behind these places on top of the paranormal. And I'm always reminded of the Disney movie Coco. You know, where if you forget these characters, they vanish and disappear. And I don't want that to happen to anybody. I know that's a fictional cartoon and I love it, but that's kind of how I look at these. You know, we're keeping these people alive by talking about their memory, whether they're haunting us or not. These were actually people who preceded us. And I think that's what strikes me the most. If I am in a historic location, I will catch myself pausing and looking around and trying to imagine what was happening where I'm standing 100 years ago. And to me, that's like the most powerful thing.
Knock it off. Sorry.
Special guest.
Yeah. Stop it. I apologize. I don't know why she's picking on him.
It's all right. Crazy family members.
Yeah, and that's what, and you know, I love that you say that, because historians, like the historians, right? These people that are like book hard historians, right? They think that the paranormal is taboo, right? And I'm like, why? We could collaborate with these people, because we are also trying to keep history alive, just in a different way, right? Just as much as they're trying to keep history alive and they're trying to tell history, so are we. We're just trying to get it from a different source than a textbook, you know, or you know. So
I think that there's a lot of, unfortunately, I think it's getting better, but I think there used to be a lot of baggage that came along with paranormal investigations, because people thought they knew what it was based on their limited experience through TV. You know, and not to say that, you know, there's any shows out there that I don't want to throw any shade on anybody, but you know, a paranormal investigation, from what I've learned since entering this world, is not something happening every 2 minutes. It's reviewing a lot of evidence after you leave the place to try to find that nugget of something that's amazing. And I think a lot of people don't understand that. And I think once you do, a lot more respect follows that.
Right. And that's the thing. Like it really does. I mean, sometimes you could probably go to the most haunted house in America and nothing happen at all. You
Yeah.
know, and then somebody can go in the next night and have all this stuff happen. There's
Absolutely.
another place, Hinsdale House. You should check Hinsdale House out. The amazing place. That is
I
in
have
New York.
friends.
Yes, Hinsdale House is another place. I could give you a lot of places. Of course, they're going to be up north a little bit, you know, not really down.
And I'm okay with that, but only after like May, because it's too
Yes.
cold.
Oh yeah. Yes. There's
We're
one in
Florida.
there's one in Withville, Virginia. It's called Octagon Mansion.
Yes. I've read a lot about that place.
That place is also amazing. I
Have
mean,
you been?
yes. And it was one of those things where, you know, you're going and you didn't expect much. And I left there like, did all that really happen? Like what?
Yeah.
I couldn't believe, because I'm old school. I have my recorder, you know, I'm not a big equipment person, you know what I mean? Because I like to hear, I can hear, and I can't see anything. I'm not able to see, but sometimes I can hear stuff and I hear responses. So like the spirit boxes, I don't like, because I feel like it drowns out my hearing, and you know what I mean? And he had equipment out and everything, and it was so responsive to the questions, and I mean, I was live the entire time on YouTube. I leave it up. I tell everybody, please watch it and tell me what you think, because I mean, at one point, because it was just me and the owner, and I looked at him and I said, are you fucking with me? Like, what is happening right now? Like, how is it this responsive? Like, you know, because it really normally doesn't happen that way, you know?
Right.
But let's really quick. I know we're running out of time. I hate this, but you had met with, I mentioned cryptids and aliens. I know that the beast over there is just getting into the ghosty stuff. But how do you feel about cryptids and aliens?
Well, I will tell you this. We have a show on Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern called Phantom History House Calls. And we've been doing interviews with all kinds of people. And I am just starting to learn about aliens and cryptids. And some of it is very interesting, and some of it makes me very nervous. I have to be honest. Now, we talked to Haiti, who's a friend of ours, who was talking about her experience she does a lot of investigations, and she found out that many of them ended up being UFO investigations and not paranormal investigations necessarily.
Interesting.
I do have a personal interest in these Nordic Viking aliens. What is this?
Nordic aliens. Yes, he has a crush on the Nordic aliens.
It's ridiculous. I'm just sort of making a joke, but I found out that they're sort of burly Nordic aliens who are all about reproducing, and it got me all excited. But anyway, I'm sorry. I can't believe I'm doing that on this show.
Yeah,
What is wrong?
Listen, I told you, anything goes on this show. Anything goes.
I guess, Tara, my explanation would be, for myself as sort of this layman who's just sort of starting to experience it, I'm sort of grabbing onto the little nuggets that sort of really piqued my interest. So everybody, I'm sorry if I insulted you with those comments or anything. I didn't mean that. Now, I think the aliens are make me very nervous, because when you're talking about the paranormal thing, like I feel like we have all these strategies for dealing with it and sort of helping people clear things out or whatever. But when you get to the aliens, at least as far as I'm understanding it, like we don't know anything. We don't know what to do. It's like we are at their mercy, and that makes me really uncomfortable.
Yeah, you can't sage an alien, you know, as far as we know, but you might be able to sage the spirit, you know.
See,
right.
Aliens.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
But then, as far as the cryptids go, we did have a couple of interesting shows about that,
Mhm.
and I'm starting to learn about it. What's interesting to me about that, if you're just one of my opinion as sort of this layman who doesn't know much about any of it, do you want that? I don't want it. It sounds
Yes,
really.
I know. I love hearing both sides of it. Like I love hearing when somebody
Well,
doesn't.
I'm very new to all this, everybody. I'm just
Yeah,
sort of.
no, I love that. I love it
Okay.
because I love to hear what piques the interest of somebody that hasn't
Okay.
never been in it and wants, you know what I mean? I want to know where the curiosity
Sure.
is.
Well, when we had the conversation about the cryptids, what was interesting to me were two things. One was I didn't realize how many different types of them they were. Like every state has its cryptid thing. That was new to me. I did not realize that they were that sort of prolific everywhere or common or whatever. And then the other thought part was really interesting to me was how it's possible that it's all connected. Like perhaps the sighting of Bigfoot or Sasquatch or what would it be? Anyway, is like passing from another realm, right?
Yeah.
Sort of like these other spirits are,
Yeah,
or even could be an alien. Like all the fact that it's all connected, and maybe I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, there's so many theories. I always say all the time, like, what if what I'm seeing, which I don't see anything, but if I've seen maybe two or three things in my entire, career of doing this, but I mostly hear. But what if I'm seeing Bigfoot, but you're seeing Casper? It's just how our minds perceive whatever it is that we're seeing.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that's really interesting. And I think it's also cool because everybody sort of has their niche they're really interested in, but the fact that it's all so connected and related and we're all sort of, I thought I liked the connectivity of it. The fact that we're all sort of in the same big global family of all of this stuff. I like how it's connected. I'm not being very eloquent.
No, you're exactly right.
And then what about you, Steve? What about you? How are you feeling about the cryptids and the aliens?
I think that the human race can be very overconfident that we think we know everything. There is a vast world under the water, in the woods, up above us that we have barely even scratched. And when I've been asked this before by guests, I use the example of the oceans. We've explored 5, maybe 10% of the world's oceans. Who knows what else is down there?
Yes.
I don't know if it would
Fascinating.
be, but that can be applied anywhere, and also with aliens. So I do think that we tend to think of ourselves as in this exclusive club of, the human race, when there is so much more out there. And I think, is there a Bigfoot in the traditional sense? I don't know, but is there something out there that we have not discovered yet? Absolutely. I think so. Maybe it is the traditional Bigfoot, like Harry and the Hendersons. That would be awesome.
That would
But
be so cool.
I'm also thinking, if you look at what I love space too, like I like science fiction, I like space. You look at what the telescopes are finding now, the James Webb telescope now, and you're finding all these galaxies, all these planets. How could there not be something? Now, why they want to come here, I don't know. But
I don't know either.
Yeah. It's like those jokes you see on Facebook, if they're going to abduct us, please come get me. I'm ready to go.
Yeah, now would be a good time.
Yeah. Yeah, the world is crazy. But I do think that there's something out there, and I am fascinated by the research that's going behind it to try to figure it out. So I'm very, very intrigued.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
I also think that sometimes people deal with their fear of the unknown by mocking it and discounting it and pretending like they know everything, right? And so that's just people dealing with their own fears.
Yeah.
So I like the fact that the paranormal community in all its different iterations is willing to say, I don't know everything. And even though I might be a little uncomfortable, I'm going to push past that fear and go out there and explore. I just think that whole go out there and figure it out and find it and explore and search and investigate. I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, here in Jersey, we have the Jersey Devil. Yeah. I don't believe in the Jersey Devil. It's a very unpopular opinion. I do not. I think it was a deformed child that over time myth and legend grew. And here we have a Jersey Devil, right? I mean, there's probably a lot of people that would say, no, Taryn, you're the Jersey Devil.
Well, it goes
But
back
as the
to,
tribute
that
goes,
grain of truth, that grain of history where these things start from, which I'm
right?
so fascinated by.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's like they do start from and like and to Tim, you're right. Every state or every state, and they all have their
Yeah.
cryptids, and then I mean you literally it's like the paranormal is under one umbrella, and you could go on forever about it. You got the triangles, which I learned like in the last 2 years that there's more than just the Bermuda Triangle. I had no idea there was all these triangles everywhere. I'm like, what? You know, the Alaskan Triangle, this triangle, and I'm like, oh my gosh,
Did you
like
know that there's a Tampa Triangle?
I did not.
Yes. So when I first got into this, one of the first books I read is called The Tampa Triangle. It's hard to find, but it is out there. And it talks about a triangle out in the Gulf of Mexico off of Tampa, where all this weird stuff has happened over the years.
Interesting.
And it's fascinating. It's tied to the Native Americans. It's tied to a little bit of cryptids. It's a little bit of everything. But to your point, there seems to be these mysterious places all over the globe that people just can't quite figure out.
Right. And see, I never would have known about the Tampa Triangle if you guys didn't come on. You see this? Like this is
We're all learning.
I'm
My job
learning.
is set up.
I'm learning. And I love it. So all right, so tell everybody like where your podcast and listen, I have like hundreds of guests for you to have on. Like I like literally have had some awesome people on, yourselves included. But like you want to get into some serious, like I have a guy that researches like Men in Black and all kinds of stuff like that. I mean, all kinds of cool stuff.
Yeah.
I interviewed a MUFON lady one time, and she came on. And I'll give you her contact. I mean, I'm telling you, doctors and parapsychologists and all kinds of people that skeptics, whoever you want to talk to, I'll definitely give you guys some names of people, even location owners. Like, I also like to interview location owners. Eric Sims, who owns the Night House, he was one of my because I like to promote the locations as well, and get them out there, but where can people find you guys? I know you said on all social medias, but you said every Wednesday night at 7 p.m., right? You guys.
Yeah, you're good with this one.
Right. So every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. we do a show called Phantom History House Calls, and that may be morphing a little bit, but you can find that on our social media. So that's Phantom History on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube.
And
You
now
guys are on Facebook? I didn't even know this.
Yeah, absolutely. And Steve does a great job of constantly updating all of those sites. If you want to find the podcast Phantom History, easiest thing is go to phantomhistory.com, which is our website where everything is located. But it's also on the YouTube channel for Phantom History. You can find the Conjuring episodes and the Phantom History episodes there. So the easiest thing is start at phantomhistory.com or go to our Instagram or Facebook or Instagram or TikTok even, right?
Yes.
Just search for Phantom History on all these things.
We'll see what happens with TikTok, but we're there right now.
So, yeah. We're supposed to be. We're not allowed to have it anymore or something, right? Coming soon.
Yeah,
right. And to say it again, we are looking for anybody who's does investigations, would like to share their research and findings, or anyone who owns or runs a historic location that's also possibly haunted and would like us to talk about that. So contact us at Phantom History, please.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. And of course, you can always email us at info@phantomhistory.com as well. That comes to both of us.
That's awesome. You guys are awesome. I love what you're doing. I love that you guys do it together. I love Tim. I love that. I just love that he's happy to do this because you're happy. It makes you happy, and to do it with you. I think it's just wonderful. And
I'm very, very lucky for sure.
Yeah, you both are just awesome. I love it. I'm happy that we got to talk, and I'm happy I got to know you guys. And I definitely will, now that I know. For some reason I was only on Instagram with you guys. You know what I mean? I was like messaging you on Instagram and stuff,
Yeah.
but now that I know I'm going to start, I'll go to all the platforms and follow you guys on all the platforms. And definitely I'll be in touch. Like, I can give you guys a lot of stuff.
Thank
We
you.
would love that.
We appreciate that.
Location.
All about connections, right? We're all connecting to each other, helping each other out. That's the way this all works. And we've loved all the people we've met. And again, to Steve's point, everybody in the paranormal community in all the different ways, investigators, the psychic mediums, the historic owners, like they're all just wonderful. And it's a really welcoming, friendly community. And I think because there's this, there's so many people out there who are sort of leery and mocking and everything, I think it makes them sort of gentle folk to sort of welcome and show, keep everybody in the fold. What am I trying to say? Help everybody out.
I say it this way, like, if you go back to like your high school days or your the days of elementary school, if the kid wasn't wearing the cool sneakers, nobody talked to him, right? But the paranormal field, doesn't matter what you look like, doesn't matter where you come from, it doesn't matter who you know or whatever, you all have this commonality of seeking the unknown, and
Right.
you want to research and do the answers. You know what I mean? And that's what I love. Now, granted, not everybody is like that, right? I mean, there's
always
bad
exceptions.
apples. There's bad apples to that extent, but for the most part, yes, the community is very welcoming. They don't judge a book by its cover. They don't, they're not, shunning you away because you're not looking like Pamela Anderson or whatever. You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
it is.
Exactly. It's sort of you be you, right? Do your thing. You be you. We'll all celebrate that. And I got to tell you, as someone who's new to this over just the last couple of years, that's definitely my impression. It's like everybody's very open and like, be yourself. We're welcoming all different types of people, and let me do my thing. You do your thing. We support each other. That's a great, great thing for the community.
Steve, what is your favorite evidence to capture, paranormal wise?
I am fascinated by the electronic voice phenomena. When somebody gets a good EVP, every hair on my arm stands up and it excites me. I think that's just so cool. Of course, I like if somebody could ever catch an apparition, or I have trouble seeing those. They remind me of like those magic eye things from the 90s where you had to cross your eyes to see it. I have trouble with those. But if I can hear a cool EVP, I get super excited.
Now, do you share with Tim when you get these EVPs?
I do. When it's bright and daylight and sun shining out, yes. I know when to share them.
I'm the guy that watches the horror movie in the middle of the afternoon, right?
Yeah. No, I feel you. Yeah. Well, it's because I asked because I let my fiance hear mine. Like when I get EVPs, I'll let him hear because I know if he hears something.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
You know what I mean? It's a little bit more validating.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There was one other thing I was going to say. So with that, when you were talking about like, the night sky and everything, and going back to what you were saying about, this stuff just doesn't, it's not like TV where it happens, blah, blah, blah. I always tell people, I love meteor showers, right? I love watching meteor showers. I'll sit up all hours of the night, watch them. And it's like, you see one and you're like, oh, and you're like, it makes you just want to stay out longer. You could be freezing or you could be hot as hell and nothing's going on, but you see that one meteor shoot over, you're like, yes, okay, I'm ready for more. Give me more, give me more.
Guys, I'm going to sit out here longer. Yes.
Yes.
That's a great way to describe it.
Yeah. I'm like, you get that one because I literally put out 7 recorders and my friends all bust my balls because we'll be there for 4 hours. They're like, Taryn, you have to listen to 7, that's like 28 hours of audio, right? And I'm like, yeah, but I love it when you get that one or two where you're just like, oh, and it makes it all worth it.
Absolutely.
It makes it all worth it. Well, agreed. Thank you guys so much for coming on. And I am going to start following you on all the social media platforms. If you ever come up this way, please, I will be your tour guide for Gettysburg. Gettysburg, I would love to see you guys in Gettysburg. Even up some places up here in like near Jersey and stuff, Pennhurst, and there's a lot of stuff up this way, if you ever venture up this way, let me know. And hopefully we can connect and hook up and do some fun paranormal stuff together.
Thank
And
you.
maybe some martial arts stuff too.
There he is.
I do. I'm proud to have my 2nd-degree black belt. So don't mess with us, everybody. I'm watching.
He's my bouncer, really. He protects me.
I love it.
Somebody's gonna do it.
I love it. You guys are great. You guys are fantastic. And I love you. And I tell everybody that watches, please share the show out, not for me, but for my guests and for what they do. Share it out. And, you know, it's been a pleasure. And I'll be in touch with you guys. Thank you so, so, so much for coming on. I
Thank you
appreciate
Thanks
it.
for having us. That was great.
Yeah, we really enjoyed it.
Thank you. And I'll talk to you guys soon for sure.
Sounds good. Thank you so
All right,
much. Bye,
thanks.
everybody. Thank you.
Good night, guys.
Good night.
Wow, they were awesome. Thank you so much, guys, for joining me. Thanks for all the comments and everything. Please share it out for them, and go follow them on all of the social media platforms. Phantom History. They said they're on Facebook and TikTok right now, YouTube, and their podcast is Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern. So go check them out. They're awesome guys. I love them already. I can't wait. I hopefully one day get to meet them. Well, until next Wednesday, I hope everybody has a great week and sweet dreams.